Hi, my name is Carl Sandemo and I am a Swedish YouTuber. You can probably tell that by my quite strong accent. Today we're actually going to do something very different. So for those of you guys who usually hear for my music reactions and stuff like that, don't worry, this is just a thing that I would like to do because I am a big fan of Jordan Peterson and I have been for quite a while actually. I think it's really good and I have read his book 12 Books for Life. I have listened to a lot of podcasts with him like Dave Rubin Report, Joe Rogan for example. But lately I haven't listened as much to Jordan Peterson and I thought that maybe I should start with that once again because I really do enjoy his work. And well, to be honest, he's helped me a lot. He really has. He has made me question some things that maybe I have taken as a... It has made me question positions and thoughts that I've had about things and made me think differently. And made me think differently about life in general in a lot of ways. But this reaction, first off, this is going to be the British JQ interview. And I've seen some interviews with Jordan Peterson, as I've said. I haven't seen this particular one. My hopes are that it is a productive interview. Because if you've been following Jordan Peterson, you know that a lot of interviewers that he meets are quite hostile, are very... biased in what they're trying to convey, some type of a story out of him. And I mean, it is understandable and I don't really have an issue with their being biased or stuff like that. But let's take the Cathy Newman interview for example. That was just ridiculous. That was so ridiculous. Cathy didn't even try to understand Jordan Peterson's views. So I have no issues at all with intellectual debate going back and forth. You can hear different perspectives of something. That is good. I think that is very productive. However, if you're just attacking a person without it even being somewhat intellectual, like the Cathy Newman interview, then, well, I will have issues with that. So hopefully this will be a good interview in that sense, that we will get two opposing different worldviews and maybe we can learn something from it. Now, I want you to know that I am biased. I am biased. That's just a fact. And so I wouldn't say that I am a Jordan Peterson fanboy in that sense that everything that Jordan Peterson says I will just take and be like, yeah, that's true. He's right. I'm not gonna question that. That's not really how I work. I listen to what he says and then I try to think, can that be true or is it not? And I try to figure out myself. Now there are a lot of things that I don't know about the world, about history, about biology and all that kind of jazz. So if I say something that is incorrect, then please let me know in the comments, because I probably am going to say a lot of things that are incorrect. And that is why I want you, as a viewer, if you see this video and you listen to Jordan Peterson... Sorry, we had some issues with the camera there. Like I said, so if you as a viewer, listen to what Jordan Peterson says, and then listen to what I say, and then listen to, well, whoever he's going to talk with, then I want you to listen to that, and even if you feel like, yeah, that sounds true, well, go and check it out yourself, or think about it yourself. Think, can this be true? Is there, could there be something else? Make up your own mind. That is very important, to be critical of things that you listen to. So, with that being said, Jordan Peterson, it's going to be awesome. Let's check it out, shall we?
How much responsibility do you feel that you have, particularly guys to the alt-right, who, as you say, some of them have enjoyed your work? And say,
No,
I'm not one of you guys. I'm not with you guys.
They haven't enjoyed my work.
I've definitely read bits on the internet.
Read more.
Oh. Okay. 17 pause. Okay. So, by the way, I will pause a lot in this video. And first of all, if you want to watch the entire video without pausing, then click the links down below. But to begin with, I'm so sick and tired of the whole thing alt-right. They're always saying the alt-right. Now, to begin with, that is a phrase that is being just put forward everywhere. And it's really hard to even know who are the alt-right. Because that is something that media likes to just push out as a phrase. But I mean, Jordan Peterson is not part of the alt-right. Jordan Peterson is not even an ideological person. I mean, it's very hard to actually put him on a spectrum of right, left, middle, because he's not that political, actually. He really isn't. He talks about responsibilities. He talks about psychological issues. That is what his main drive is. He is interested in individuals. Now, he's become controversial and he's become political, and a lot of discussions are about politics, but that is not really his fault. It's because people are asking him political questions and then he has to answer. But I'm interested in politics, so I don't really have an issue with that. But the whole alt-right thing, I have a bit of an issue with that. Because I just don't see it. And if you do, then please let me know why. But I don't. At least. Alright. Like I said, there will be a lot of pauses so I can get my thoughts across.
You've sold 2 million copies of 12 Rules for Life. You have 800,000 followers on Twitter, 1.4 million followers on YouTube. What is it that you're selling that so many people want to buy?
I don't think I'm selling anything.
Well, I went to a show where you were selling tickets to your show, so people are willing to pay a lot of money to see you speak. You know, what is it that you think that people are hungry for? They want to hear from you.
You are selling stuff.
They're hungry for a discussion of the relationship between responsibility and meaning.
Yeah.
And we haven't had that discussion in our culture for 50 years. We've concentrated on rights and privileges and freedom and impulsive pleasure, and those are all useful in their place, but they're shallow, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Because if people are moored shallowly, then storms wreck them, and storms come along. So I'm talking to people about how they can build a foundation underneath them that works, and people need to know that, because otherwise their lives are harder than they need to be.
What is it that you have that no one else?
There. So, I mean, the whole thing about really what has made him such a big a phenomenon, really, is because he has brought up the discussion about responsibilities. And like, we've had this discussion about rights, what is your right? That is what everyone tells people, but that is not the type of discussion that needs to be held. Rights is a good thing. People need to know what their rights are. That is true. But what about responsibility? Come on, guys. Like, seriously, I live in Sweden, and in Sweden there's a big thing in our culture about lack of individual responsibility. It really is. We have a lack of that, a big lack of that in Sweden. It becomes actually, it's gone too much with the whole rights thing. It's always like, oh, it's not your fault. The thing that happened with you, it's not your fault, it's someone else. You don't have to take responsibility for that. The state will take responsibility for that, for example, or, well, someone else. There is never a feeling of you need to take responsibilities. You are an individual, and of course there are things that you can take care of, and sometimes you need help. That is fine. But the big thing is that a lot of times you need a person that helps you help yourself. That is what's the most important thing. It's not about being selfish and be like, I'm just gonna leave you in the dark because I don't care about you. No, it's not like that. It's more like, I am going to help you by telling you that you need to grow up. I'm going to help you by telling you that you need to take care of yourself, that you need to do things because you can, and I believe in you. those types of discussions we need to have, and that's why I enjoy listening to Jordan.
But what is it that you have that no one else has? What are you offering that no one else is right now?
Well, I just told you.
Well, I think that is what I'm offering.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
not part of the public discussion, and
Yeah,
it's grounded
I just
in
told
my
you. What are you
clinical
talking about?
knowledge. So I've been a clinician for a very long time, and I'm familiar with the works of most of the great 20th century clinicians and a reasonable amount of philosophy and a good swath of literature. And I'm a credible scientist, and so I can bring that all together. And I've tried to bring it all together and to make a case for the significance of individual life and the psychological necessity of courage and nobility and responsibility, these things that sound old-fashioned, but are old-fashioned in the best sense. They're old-fashioned because they've lasted forever and they're absolutely necessary. And people need a call to responsibility because they need to mature. They need to want to be adults. And I don't think we do a very good job in our culture of making a case for why it's a good thing to be an adult.
That's true.
And two things really made you famous, which is, first of all, is the book, 12 Rules for Life.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I think, was an interview that went viral with Kathy Newman of Channel 4 News, which you talked about men and women.
Podcasts help plenty.
Love
right,
Joe
he's got
Rogan.
a big following.
Check him out.
But that was, I think, really fascinating, that interview, because it was specifically about men and women. And you said at the time, YouTube skews very male and your fan base is very male. Is that still the case? Are you still primarily talking to men?
Pause. Okay, so now I am sorry, but I am so sick and tired of this. Why is this question always brought up? Seriously, why is that? I'm not gonna get too emotional, but seriously, that is a very good question. Why does everyone so skeptical about, so the majority of people who listen to Jordan Peterson are males. Okay. Now, why is that a problem, though? Why is it a problem that more males are listening to Jordan Peterson? I don't get that. Because if it would, just think about this. Okay, maybe you don't think it's a big thing or whatever, but think it was the other way around, right? Let's think if women were the majority of, or the majority of people who listen to Jordan Peterson were women, people would have been celebrating that. They would have been like, oh my God, Jesus, you have so many female listeners. That is such a good thing. Why has it become such a... I don't get that. Why has it become like this in our culture? That when a majority of males are doing something, well, then it's bad. Then it's toxic masculinity or whatever. I have a really hard time with that. Sorry. Let's continue, my friends. But I just have a hard time really understanding that.
I would say the talks are probably 60-40, 65-35 male to female. The book sales, I don't know. I doubt it because usually it's women who buy books, although men do buy nonfiction if they buy books. We don't know the demographics on the books. But the book has definitely expanded my audience, I would say. And that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I never set out specifically to talk to men. My students for most years at university have been primarily female.
And it's not a bad thing.
My graduate students have
even
been
if it
female.
was,
It might be about
in my
50-50, but I think it would probably tilt more in the direction of female. So it wasn't something I set out to do. I think, though, that, as I said earlier, well, I can't tell how much of it is merely a consequence of the fact that YouTube skews so male. It might also be something to do with the call to take on voluntary responsibility. I'm not exactly sure why that would be more necessary for men right now. I think it might be because our culture confuses men's desire for achievement and competence with the patriarchal desire for tyrannical power. And that's a big mistake. Point. Those aren't the same thing, even a bit. So, and it's very inappropriate psychologically and sociologically to confuse them. So.
Well, one of the things I want to come back to is this idea. So that you say in the book, there is masculine order and feminine chaos.
No, actually, I say that those are symbolic representations of the two things.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So why is order masculine?
That's a good question.
I think it's because our primary social hierarchy structures are fundamentally masculine.
And that's not the patriarchy.
patriarchy.
Well, it's not the modern idea of the patriarchy, that's for sure.
I mean, that's my idea of the patriarchy,
Okay, so
which is a system of male dominance
the
of society.
patriarchy is...
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Right, let's hear
Well,
it.
in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by
Here we
men, the
go.
vast majority of capital and is
Here
owned
we
by
go.
men. Women do more
It's
unpaid
a very,
labour.
very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people
Yes.
in prison are men.
Yes.
Most people who are
Homeless.
on the street are men.
Suicide.
Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit
Work
suicide
facilities.
are men. Most people who die in wars are men.
Yes, thank you.
People who do worse in school
Yes,
are
thank
men.
you.
Like, where's
Preach the
dominance
good
here
word.
precisely? What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
But I could say equally well that most rape victims are women. You know, terrible things happen to people of both
Yes.
sexes.
Yes,
And you could say
exactly.
that with perfect
It's exactly
utility,
how it
but
works.
that doesn't provide any evidence for the existence of a male-dominated
No.
patriarchy.
Well, there
It
are,
just means that terrible things happen to both genders, which they certainly do.
but there are almost no women who rape men, for example. So
Well-
that is an asymmetry there in sexual
Yes,
violence.
There's some
Well, yes, there's
asymmetries
an
between...
asymmetry in all sorts of places, but that doesn't mean that Western culture is a male-dominated patriarchy. The fact that there are asymmetries has nothing to do with your basic argument.
No, but you might
This
equally...
is a trope that people just accept. Western society is a male-dominated patriarchy. It's like, no, it's not. That's not true. And even if it has a patriarchal structure to some degree, the fundamental basis of that structure is not power; it's competence.
Okay,
That's
okay,
why our
pause,
society-
pause right there, 6:33. So the whole discussion really about the patriarchy, I'm not going to talk that much about it, but I mean, I do have a really issues when you're taking like 1% of the males and then you're saying, look at these people, they have it so well. That means that we live in a patriarchy, for example. I really have an issue with that, especially when you're saying stuff like, oh, you as a male, you have no issues with that. And I live in Sweden and I get discriminated a lot only because I am a white, privileged male, for example. That is something that happens quite often, to be honest. And people, I mean... And when I'm against that, and when I'm actually trying to have a discussion with them and saying that, well, you shouldn't discriminate me only because I'm a white male, then they say, well, you can take it. You have so much privilege, pretty much. And, well, I would say it like this. I have a lot of privilege and a lot of sense from, you know, like everyone else, but there are also a lot of things that you don't know about an individual, and that is the whole thing with group think. It's like, well, you belong to this type of group, then it must be that you are this way and you have this much privilege, and I will hate on you only because you belong to a certain group. Now, when it comes to the patriarchy, like if you go back in time and you want to argue that males had it better than women, then that is something that I really haven't set up my mind on. I'm not that educated in history. I really like learning about history. But here's the thing. History in general has been really tough for both sexes in different ways. Now, can you argue that maybe women had it rougher? You probably can. You probably can. But where I would like to have the discussion more really is, do we live in a patriarchy at the moment? That is really what is essential. And I would probably argue that no, we don't. Both men and women have it really rough. Yes, some men, a small minority of men, have a lot of power. That is true. They're also okay, there it died. Okay guys, unfortunately my camera died, but it's getting quite late, and I think that we will end it right here. Now in the next episode I do believe that I won't talk as much as I did in this one, and there will be more of me just reacting to things that are happening. But if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and all that kind of jazz. I hope you will have an awesome day, and if you enjoyed this video, then well, please leave a comment in the comment section below and give me your thoughts about this at least the beginning to this interview, and maybe I will make another one. Alright guys, have a good one.